Okay, rock on. Good morning. Welcome everybody to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host, Samantha Studebaker-Carl, broadcasting to you from beautiful Indianapolis, Indiana. And I'm here with my good friend, Catherine Clement. And this morning we're going to be talking about verse 42 of the Tao Te Ching as interpreted by Wayne Dyer from his book, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, Living the Wisdom of the Tao. And this week's topic is kind of talking about living in harmony with the Tao. But before we get started, I want to give everybody an opportunity to, or everybody, I always say everybody because we usually have a panel of people on here. I want to give Catherine an opportunity to introduce herself, and then we'll get this discussion going. Catherine.
Everybody.
Everybody.
Well, my name's Catherine Clement, and I live in Boulder, Colorado. It is a beautiful day here, nice and sunny, chilly. It was funny because I woke up this morning and I was like, it's kind of chilly in here, and I have had to turn the heater on in the past couple of weeks because we've been dropping down in the 40s and stuff. And then I went out to feed the dog like just before I got on here. It is way warmer in here than it is out there. So I was like, I guess it feels pretty good in here. So, but I'm happy, Samantha. I know you've been moving and working, and it's been like crazy time for a lot of people, which is probably why everybody's not here today, because it's just a really busy time. I look forward to, you want me to go ahead and read this verse, or you want to just say some other stuff first?
Yeah, no, go ahead and read it. We're just going to keep it casual this morning since we always keep it casual, I'm not saying.
All right. This is the 42nd verse. The Tao gave birth to one. One gave birth to two. Two gave birth to three. And three begat the 10,000 things. The 10,000 things carry yin and embrace yang. They achieve harmony by combining these forces. People suffer at the thought of being without parents, without food, or without worth. Yet, this is the very way that kings and lords once described themselves, for one gains by losing and loses by gaining. What others taught, I teach. The violent do not die a natural death. That is my fundamental teaching.
It seems like this verse addresses some pretty significant things. Of course, they all do, right? But before, hey, Karen.
Hi, Karen.
Are you there? Can we hear you?
Oh, she just muted. There she goes. Hi, Karen.
I guess if my mic's up by my temple doesn't talk yet.
No.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, awesome. I think that we can all probably stay unmuted as long as there is an echo. Does anybody hear an echo? No? Karen?
No, sounds good.
Okay, awesome. Since there's just three of us, I think that'll work out all right. We can just have a casual conversation. It was funny to me is when I didn't think about this when I first read the verse, but when you were reading it and you were saying the part of the three begat the 10,000 things and that whole begat thing. What pops in your mind now? Yeah. And that one part in the Bible where it's like chapters and chapters and chapters of so-and-so begot so-and-so begot so-and-so. And I'm like, that's it right there. That's where the 10,000 things came from. It's the begatting from the Bible.
I've got my story of that too. My best friend and I decided one school year that we were going to read scripture during lunch recess, and so we would cart our little copies of the New Testament out to recess, and I think it's at the beginning of the New Testament is maybe where that starts, because we read about 3 pages of these difficult names to even pronounce. Everybody begatting. We're thinking, what the heck is this begatting stuff anyway? Doesn't sound like very fun to be an adult.
I never got through the begatting.
I
The
know,
rest
right?
of the Bible, I'm like, oh well, this is like what this is, you know.
Right. Don't start at that point. You'll never get the whole thing. Right? It's so funny, though. I mean, that just really struck me when it said in the 3 begat the 10,000 things. It says it right there in the Bible.
Well, when I thought about you moving and how you guys have begat the 10,000 things that now you're moving, you know, you move around.
Exactly, right? Isn't it funny, though, how something so simple does? It just creates chaos, you know? I mean, just the simple little move. And I'm sitting there thinking, because you guys know, I mean, we were in a camper for a few years. We didn't have a whole lot of stuff, right? And so then we moved into my dad's house for a time as we were transitioning back to Indiana. And, you know, we accumulated a few little things. But when I'm like, okay, we're getting ready to move, you know, we don't have that much stuff, right? And so we borrowed a trailer, a little cargo trailer from a friend of ours. And thinking that, you know, because we had my chair and Chris has a chair and, you know, I've got my massive filing cabinet that we accumulated for this trucking business. And I'm like, yeah, that's all we got, right? You know, those 3 things, we just need a big trailer to haul them. But it ended up that we filled up that dang cargo trailer. It was like, where did all this stuff come from? And of course, I think part of it was that my dad was kind of going, oh, here, you can have this and you can have that. People love to get rid of stuff for you when you say, oh, I'm moving and I could use a blah, blah, blah. And they come up with the 10,000 things they don't want anymore that they want you to have. You know? So
Exactly.
you know, but yeah, it was funny because I'm like, sheesh, where did all this stuff come from? And how is it that I went from, you know, not a whole lot going on to 10,000 things that I got to do and recover from or, you know, finish up or whatever. And then I was behind. So.
Yeah. Yeah, you never realize how much you have until you move. You just don't.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's crazy. It's crazy. You know, and we're here in this new apartment and I'm sitting here thinking about the few things that I'd like to have. You know, of course, that means we'll have more stuff when we move the next time.
Yeah.
But that's the way it works, right? That's part of being in this physical world and having all this stuff. And that, you know, that kind of brings us to the next part of the verse, though, is when it's talking about the suffering. Morning, Chris. I saw him waving.
Morning.
Hey.
Good morning.
Jump on. We were afraid the 10,000 things were getting the better of you. I know they have been for me this week. So when we start into this next part and it talks about suffering and the thought of being without parents, food, worth, all of those kinds of things, we're talking about what all those things we become attached to in the physical world, right? And how when we are attached to all those things, if we have this if something happens, we're going to lose them, or something happens and it's get taken away, or you know, any number of things like that, then that's when we have that suffering, right? Oh, sorry. So what came up for you guys on that part?
Well, what stood out to me was the way it was actually worded. Let me get back over there. Give me just 1 second. People suffer at the thought of being without parents, without food, or without worth. And what stood out to me was the thought, because actually I was just talking to somebody yesterday about this. We've actually discussed it a couple times on our calls this week of how our thoughts can drive us crazy, literally, you know. And that's why this being in network marketing is a great place to grow yourself, you know, because you do start working with mindset, or most people do. All the successful people that I know do mindset work like this every day, maybe not get a mastermind like this, but we're all reading something every day, or, you know, if we're in the middle of a move, we might not be, but once we're in our, you know, back to where we're supposed to be, we're reading every day and things like that. And I brought up, I had somebody that had a rejection. You know, she offered somebody the business and they rejected her, and she's a yellow personality, so she completely took it to heart. And it, you know, it was just like this really big situation for her because it was a good friend, you know, and she thought that the friend like trusted her enough, or what, you know, you guys know because you've dealt with this before, but it was very, very upsetting, and she's new to networking, and so I had to bring out the Byron Katie for her and stuff, which we've spoken many times on this mastermind. But it was the thought, you know, and that's what stood out. It was the thought, and that's what I kept trying to get through to her, is that you haven't lost the friendship. This is all your thought and your fear that you're going to lose the friendship, because, you know what I mean? It was, and I think finally at about 11 o'clock last night, we got through, and where she got, you know, and once you can get that one little piece of life, once you can understand that it is just the thought that's causing the suffering, it relieves, I mean, stress, just, you still have it, but when you can remind yourself, oh yeah, it's just my thought about that, you know, is it true? Number one, is it true? Number two, do you absolutely know it's true? Those are Byron Katie's questions, and there's two more, but you hardly ever have to get to the last two questions, because usually when you're suffering over something and you ask yourself, is it true? 98% of the time, it's not even true. It's just something that you're imagining might be going to happen. And then the second question, are you absolutely sure it's true? You almost never get through that question, because we're almost not intentionally lying to ourselves, but we're almost always making up things in our mind that we can suffer over if we choose to. And it's very rarely what's actually happening. So, yeah, the thought is what jumped out at me, because if we can just change our thoughts, we can change our life, right? The name of this book.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny how our thoughts can do that to us. And I mean, with everything, you know, okay, so this week, the one thing that's been aggravating me or frustrating, or I don't even know what the word for it is causing me discomfort. And that's like my word, that discomfort that we experience because of the thoughts about something that, you know, cause us the pain. And the thing that's been causing me the most discomfort just in the past couple of days is we had like a really dramatic change in the temperature. I mean, it was beautiful. It was 80. And then we had a rainstorm, and now it was like in the 40s last night. And during the day, it was just cold. And so all these thoughts were coming up of, you know, I hate cold. It's no fun being cold. It's unpleasant. It hurts. It's, you know, all these thoughts. And then, I shouldn't have to deal with this. I should still be in Georgia. I would, you know, it's all Chris's fault, you know, all these things, right? And it's these stupid thoughts that are the thing that is causing me the most frustration. If I just be like, oh, it's cold. I think I'll put on another blanket. I'll like, you know, and I'm doing these things anyway. I'm putting on the fleece pants and the extra shirts, and I went and got my scarves and, you know, my big coat, you know, I'm covering myself all up and everything, you know, and I could just stay right there with just cover myself up so I'm not as cold. But no, I want to go into all this drama that goes all along with all these thoughts, you know. So it's not just a little bit colder. It's unpleasant because of all this crap I'm thinking about the cold, you know. And if we just would... the thing that I'm thinking about this morning is like, if whenever you start to feel frustration or upset or, you know, sadness or depression or any of those things, it's because of something that you have like form this attachment to in some way. And when you can identify what it is that is causing you this uncomfortable emotion, then you can say, okay, here, what is it? Or you can be like, okay, here, what is it specifically that I'm attached to that I need to change my thoughts about so that I can be happier in the situation, or I can live more in harmony, as this verse is saying, living in harmony with the Tao, or the Tao, excuse me. And, and that's the key. It's to identify those things that you have these attachments with, and let go of all these ridiculous thoughts that we torture ourselves with, so that we can live more in harmony with our lives versus wishing our life was one way or wishing our life was a different way. Excuse me, that's my thought anyway.
Come on, Karen, what you got to say?
What are you causing yourself suffering on right now? Tell us about that.
Oh, no. You don't want to hear that. Talk about drama. I really got into it last night. We decided to put the puppies outside because this great weather that you had, Samantha, came our way. Instead of the heat, instead of all this heat, it's been really, really nice, and we put the puppies out, and they were doing pretty good, except that they like to be around us. It's interesting to me. I had never really paid that much attention to how much dogs just love to be with people. They just love to be with people. And so I had gone out, and I don't know, I was just kind of checking on things, and so these little puppies start climbing this little fence that my son put up, a little chicken wire fence, and of course they can stick their paws in the little whatever you call those little things, those little holes, and so I'm thinking, oh no, this is really bad, because one climbed over and dropped, and it's interesting, the different things that you don't even really notice normally. But I mean, there's this bed of rocks, and there's this little, I don't know, somebody at some time in the past around this house put curbing around our backyard, our entire backyard, which really is kind of nice if you're a gardener and you have plenty of free time and you're out there and you don't do anything but keep everything nice and neat. But of course we have all these little strands of grass that are twice as tall as the puppies. So anyway, this little puppy's hell-bent for leather, not having any idea where it's going, and it's taken off, and the big dogs are out there, oh, sniff, sniff, and they stick one paw on top of this little puppy. The little puppy squished. It just drives me crazy, just makes me nuts. So I gather them all up in a basket and bring them in the house, and then we have more pooping in the house, and I'm supposed to be scraping poop. So again, the dogs go out at night. I had suggested this fence thing. No, that fence thing wasn't a good enough idea. But I go out there, and he's got this other idea. So I'm thinking, it's nearly dark. I'm at that stage. I think there are different times that you can have stages with your eyes, and it's like I can hardly see. And I'm thinking, how am I going to get food out here and not stumble on all these little rocks? So I come back in the house, and I talk to the girlfriend. I say, what's the plan? Because he goes to work at night. What's the plan for when these dogs need to be fed? Oh, I don't know. I'm thinking, oh great, that means me. And so then I'm ready to stomp around. I go in the bathroom. We only have hot water because my son has, rather than fix the faucet, decided to turn off the cold water, so the cold water doesn't run. And of course, it doesn't take very long before the water's so hot. So then I'm using the toilet. The toilet doesn't flush. So I happen to be prepared. I have a couple of gallon things of water, just because I drink water out of these iced tea containers and stuff, and so they're on the back of the toilet, and they have water in it, and I'm just sloshing it in there, just yanking these things up and down, trying to make this thing flush. I'm washing my hands with hot water. My hands are already raw. I have to go. Oh, I can't even believe I'm doing this on national TV. This is the kind of person I am. If you ever decide to get onto any of my blogs, just hop right off because I'm just a griper and a complainer.
I think that's how we all are, one way or another, Karen. I really think that because, I'll have those moments. It's like every single thing. It doesn't matter what it is, and I make it worse on myself. Because I'm sitting here going, the one thing piles on top of the other, and if that thing hadn't happened, then I wouldn't be dealing with this thing, and if I wasn't doing that, then I wouldn't have this, and just like the cold. So I'm right there with you, and and it's funny because this is what we do to ourselves. This is how we cause ourselves the suffering from all these 10,000 things, right? So what do you think, Chris? What are you suffering from?
Oh God, I'm suffering from a sore body from mopping so much yesterday. Can you hear me?
From what? Sorry, I was muted. I heard you. But
yeah. No, from doing so much mopping at work.
Oh, mopping. I thought
yeah.
Hopping.
Yeah, I'm doing. Yeah, it's all right.
Yep.
Extra responsibilities seem to have come my way, but it's beneficial.
We were discussing that before we started recording, that it seems to be that seems to have happened. Like all of us seem to have had an avalanche sort of happen in our lives, where a bunch of extra things piled on. Or, I had another mission given to me by God, the other morning, and I'm like, what? Like, I'm doing so much stuff right now. I can't do anything else. Are you kidding me? But, when you get those direct messages, you can't really ignore them. So,
right.
Oh my gosh. God has much more confidence in us than we do. That's all I can say.
Thank goodness. Hey, where's today's verse? Where can I find it?
In the book.
I haven't
really
posted yet. I've been so busy, I haven't had time to do anything. So yeah.
Have you read the verse yet?
We have. We can read it again though if you want.
I might need you to do that if you would.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. Verse 42. The Tao gave birth to one, one gave birth to two, two gave birth to three, and three begat the 10,000 things. 10,000 things carry yin and embrace yang. They achieve harmony by combining the forces. People suffer at the thought of being without parents, food, without wars. Yet this is the very way that kings and lords once described themselves. For one, gains by losing and loses by gaining. What others taught, I teach. The violent do not die a natural death. This is my fundamental teaching.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Did it say the violent do not die a natural death?
Yep.
I've also heard a translation that says a violent man will die a violent death. So
yeah, I haven't heard that, but yeah, I think that it makes sense. And and just reading this verse from different translations you can gain so much insight from that just by, that's why we talk about these verses, right? So that we can gain some insight. Whenever I don't understand what it's about, I'll go through and look at 3 or 4 different translations just to try and get an idea of where's Lao Tzu coming from on this one,
We had a huge laugh over the begat part. You missed out on that, Kiris. we all laughed about the begat part.
So the part about where it was saying, let's see, yet this is the very way that kings and lords once described themselves. For one gains by losing and loses by gaining. And what came up for me is is for that particular part is similar to the whole network marketing industry. Catherine, you know how, I mean, everybody kind of gets this idea in their head that these really successful network marketers just started that way somehow, or somehow they had some advantage of some sort. But yet, I mean, we all know that everybody has to start at the beginning, right? You can't just instantly overnight. Well, I don't know. I guess some people, if they've been doing some other thing to prepare them ahead of time, they could make an overnight success in a network marketing thing. But they still had to start at the beginning with some kind of marketing, with some kind of networking, with some kind of relationship development. And because you can't just start from having absolutely no friends and nobody and no conversation skills or no nothing, and then turn that into a multi-million-dollar business of some sort. You got to start at the beginning. And that's kind of what came up for me on that one, for that particular section. Of course, we've heard all, and there's all kinds of different stories of where somebody started out as, in poverty and then became a really great success. And that happens in every industry and every life situation, I think. I mean, I guess if you're just born a king, you maybe you're instantly something great, but I don't even believe that, because I mean, when you're born, you're neither one nor the other. You just exist, and you have to learn the ways from the beginning, just like everybody else. What do you guys think?
I don't know if you have, if you ever watch anything on Netflix. I don't have TV, but once in a while, especially if I'm really starting to feel overwhelmed and my thoughts are starting to tell me, all this stuff or whatever, sometimes I'll just do a break and, watch 30 minutes of a show on Netflix or something just to take me out of it. And there's this show called Rain, RAIGN, Rain. And I've been watching that, and they came out with some new episodes. So I was watching some of that, and it was interesting because they were born into being a king. Like the episode I just watched, the guy that was the king just died, and now his little brother had to take over. And his little brother, like, he knew that he was in place to one day possibly be king or whatever, but like he didn't think about it because he was just a teenager, and so he wasn't, all of the sword lessons and all that stuff, he really wasn't paying that much attention to, because he didn't think, of course, that his brother was going to die and he was going to be king right then at that age, and so he's having to go through a lot of growth and learning curves and stuff, and it reminded me of networking exactly, because everybody is one person away from their miracle in networking. And so you can be plodding along and thinking, oh my gosh, this isn't going anywhere, and driving yourself crazy with thoughts. And then the next thing you know, you get your miracle person, or, your team in Nigeria blows up or whatever happens. And suddenly you're like over, you're big. You got to step up to the plate. You got to help all these people. You got to do all these things, and you look at the big leaders. A lot of people look at the big leaders and they say, oh, well, they already, it's so easy for them. They make it look so easy. It's not easy, you guys. Everybody has to step out of their comfort zone. Everybody gets overwhelmed. I mean, we're all alike in that. Don't think that you're so unique that you're the only one that's out there suffering because everybody is. But it was funny when I was watching them. I'm like, yeah, because suddenly you're thrust into this position that you've never been in before, and you have to find your way through it, and there's a lot of growth and stumbling blocks and speed bumps, as I call them, challenges that arise, a whole new and different set of challenges. So don't think that just because you make it that everything's going to be easy or whatever. It's just a bigger and broader set of challenges that's put before you. Here comes a train. It's always a learning process and always a growth process, no matter how big you or not big you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and it turns out we live by a train here too. It's not as close by any means. I mean, we were only like 15 feet from the tracks before, but yeah, when I heard the first night we were here and the windows were open, I heard the train nearby. I'm like, well, I think that we just always are going to live by a train in some way, shape, or form, which is fine because it's almost, it's like a comfort now. You hear the train in the distance, and that's like the hoot owl, right? I don't know, it's some peaceful thing, I guess. But yeah, I'm right there with you. That whole responsibility thing, it's because you think that, oh, it's so much easier at the top, and and not that I've been like a big CEO of any major corporations, but I have been, self-employed as an individual, and I've then been in a situation where I have, people working for me in a company, and we've been back and forth with that in both my pet grooming business as well as in our trucking company, and then in network marketing. And I mean, it's the same no matter what industry you're in, is that if you start out as an employee at the bottom where you have nobody that's under you, and then all of a sudden you work your way up and you have people that you have to supervise, and then people look to you, and it's a whole nother set of responsibilities that that change everything, and there's more demands on you, and it's, I think back a lot, because I've been working this retail job. And there have been opportunities where, I could move up in a supervisory position, but I don't have any interest in that because my business is in the trucking right now. That's where we're at. And that's where my goals are versus in this retail job. And I'm like, I know there's a lot of people in there that are like, oh, I would really want to do that. I'm like, well, go for it, because I don't want those responsibilities. I don't want to have to be that person that everybody counts on if everyone else fails, But and I think that's another thing with the network marketing. I think that there are some people that hold themselves back because they don't want to be in that position where everybody is counting on them, and then I think that a lot of times I think it happens also that you make yourself more responsible for those people than what you actually have to be as well. I'm losing my train of thought. Somebody else jump out there. Karen, you're quiet.
Gosh, so many thoughts circle around about everything for me. I I know it's because I've just had so many of these experiences. There was something about when Catherine was talking about people think it's easy at the top. I remember when I was just beginning to put my husband through law school as a Tupperware manager. You look around and you think, well, what's the big deal about being a Tupperware manager? It can't be it can't be that big a deal. And then you look around and some people are really, like stars, and they like have crowns on their head, and they have like, newspaper followings. I mean, it just seems like they're such a big deal. And I don't know, I fixated on this one young girl, and she had a couple children too, and her husband was involved, and so I was envious there because, and at the time I was convinced that I had no clue what envy or jealousy was. I just really thought, well, those are things that fortunately I don't have to experience. But she had a husband who was in the business, and he was supporting her, and he was cheerleading her, and they'd come up to the mic at the conventions, and she'd say a few things, and he'd stand behind her, and he'd talk, and he'd say, oh, she's just so fantastic, and all this kind of stuff. And I'd think, where's my husband? Why is he blah 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 blah? And I just really thought, she just has it so good because she has this, She has that. And you know, she had cancer. And she died because she coughed. And because, you know, it was so pervasive that she was just, it just, you know, like crumbled her. And of course, this is my perspective and vision and stuff like that. But I've felt bad, obviously, all these years. She's so fortunate, you know. And I think a lot of times we look at people and we think, I don't know. I've clearly. This is a sad thing. You know, you get to an age where you can't remember everybody, and I've apparently followed Ryan Eliason somehow. I don't know if you know who he is. I thought, well, you know, that's such a cool name, Eliason. Why don't I have a cool name like Eliason? um, but anyway, I was looking back. I was looking at some of my old posts, and I was looking at, you know, so who is this guy, and where is he, and what does he do? And then I heard him speaking about, um, you know, how the company he was in at the time that I was reading, you know, he was the only one left. They had to dissolve their company, and lots of people, and he was walking through all the, you know, the little cubicles and everything, going back to his spot and kind of hiding. And um, you know, I I think I don't know what it is about us as humans that we need to um, be looking at other people and seeing that they have it better somehow. They have it better, and that's why, you know, that's why my toilet won't flush. My water's hot, my hands are raw. So that's my contribution.
Okay, so I got a question for you, Karen. So then you were saying you looked up to this one person or this one lady, and then, if I'm not mistaken, you said the same girl or the same person got cancer. So
Right.
what do you think? What did you gather from that then? What did that show you or reveal to you? What do you think that was trying to say?
Well, first of all, she was in California, and I'm in Arizona. Now that should tell you something, because it's classier to be in California. And if you live in California, you have it all anyway. So I'm picturing this young girl with her two kids having an easier time. I mean, she's a more stellar, brighter, shining mother than I am with my two children. You know, I'm still trying to learn the ropes. And, you know, she's got a husband who's involved with her in her business, whereas I'm trying to get my husband, you know, his 80 millionth degree that he thinks he has to have. And pardon me. So, you know, I have her pictured with this closet, and it has just beautiful dresses, and she has plenty of shoes, and she can walk out of her house like a bandbox every day. I don't know what a bandbox would walk like, but anyway, she walks out every day, and she just looks great, and she has these two little children dangling off her hands. And what I don't know, what I don't get, is that she's not going to live all these decades that I have since lived, and she doesn't get to raise her children, and she doesn't get to enjoy the benefits of this nice husband who is supporting her and cheerleading her, you know, all these years. These are the things that I realize that I don't have a clue about. And does that help? Okay. I have the advantage of seeing you nodding. This is, I suppose, on national TV, everybody has the advantage of seeing you nodding while I talk about my petty little thoughts.
Well, we're not on national TV, first of all.
Hey, we will be. The day will come. The day will come. Everybody will say, those guys have it so easy.
If PBS can pick us up. Yeah. No, I mean, I guess what I gather from it, and I do the same thing with lots of people, and I think we just look up to, you know, there's certain people I look up to or whatever, and you think, you know, they walk on like diamond roads or something. They got diamonds on the soles of their shoes. You know, and I think I think jealousy is just kind of a normal kind of thing, and we just tend to sort of paint this picture. But I think there's more to people than meet the eye, and when we get certain feelings, we sort of paint a certain picture, but it's not necessarily true altogether, you know. And obviously, from what you're saying, this person has much more difficulties. And sometimes, if you look up to a person, or if you like the person, I think there's something they say about our mentality. We tend to overlook that they could do anything wrong or have any troubles. So I think it's somewhat our perception.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it comes back to the 10,000 things that, you know, comprise this physical world. I think that, you know, when I read through this, I started reading the chapter, and then of course I have all these thoughts and I start writing them down, and the biggest thing that keeps coming up for this book, or all of these verses, is this attachment that we have for the 10,000 things, and we've forgotten that we are not of this physical world. We're just here. We're just visiting. And there's more to us than what we see every day here. But yet we get these attachments to all of this stuff, all of this, everything that is this physical realm. And we put so much importance on it. And it's that forgetfulness of our greater selves, our infinite selves, that causes us to be so attached to what is in this physical world. And then that is what causes all of that suffering. And I think that that's what this whole Tao is trying to get through to us is, hey, you know, we're in this world, but we're not of this world. And once you can really embrace the fact that, you know, these 10,000 things are just experiences here in this life, and they really aren't as important as what we make them out to be, is that we can release ourselves from that suffering that we cause ourselves by, you know, envying somebody else and what we think that they have versus what we have. That, you know, we all experience suffering in some way, shape, or form, because we all put ourselves through all this dramatic baloney. You know, whether it's jealousy, whether it's frustration, whether it's, you know, my husband will not put the toilet seat down or something crazy like that. I mean, there's always something. And it's that we just have to remember that, you know, this isn't permanence. It's fleeting. Every moment here in this physical world is fleeting. And that's humbling in a lot of ways. And I think it's scary too, to some extent, depending on your point of view, because you sit here and think, oh gosh, you know, if this is fleeting, does it really even matter? And gosh, I'm like going in a whole nother direction. Let's stay with the whole part of, let's try and release ourselves from the suffering by detaching from all of these expectations and of what we think we want, and realizing that, you know, we're all going through these things. And that's, you know, I don't know. That's the direction I was going, I guess. My dog is distracting me, keeps jumping around going, hey, hey, hey. He's looking at me like going, hello, don't you know I have to go out? I'm like, it's going to be a minute.
Yeah. So the funny thing is that, you know, people, the people that people are looking up to and saying, oh, they have it all and it all comes so easy, like they don't even know how they got there sometimes. You know, I mean, it's like one day you're just struggling, and then the next day you're like, holy shit. And and it's, you know, people, people do get envious because they do make up all of these things in their head, like, oh, well, they must have, brought their 10,000 member team from another company, or it's easy for them to talk to people, or, I mean, you could list 10,000 things right there, or we always try to, I don't know why human beings do that, but it is something that seems to be innate amongst all of us, where the grass is always greener. I mean, basically, you look at somebody else and you think that their situation is so much better. And like you were saying, Karen, you idolized this lady and you had envisioned her living this perfect life that you wanted to live. And yet what you didn't realize was that the reason her husband was cheering her on is because she was battling cancer every day and still dressing up and putting a smile on her face to present to people, which is what we do. We hide what's really going on behind the scenes to put on this face for people. And that's one of the things that I love about this mastermind, because I've been involved in many masterminds, and we teach our teams in network marketing and stuff that you must have this positive attitude and you only focus on what you want. The more you talk about the other stuff, the more it builds. And, we teach all that stuff. But at some point, people need to be real. People need to hear that other people are in just as much of a mess behind the scenes as they are. People need to know that. Because if you always think that everybody has it better and you never hear that those people are struggling too, or you didn't know that that woman had cancer or whatever, if you don't hear the real stories behind it, I mean, you can just isolate yourself and put yourself in such a state of suffering, and it will all be in your mind. And that's, I think, the key thing to understand, is that your mind will drive you crazy, and it's just your mind. Because if you can stay in the present and not be comparing and worrying about the future or going doing that, I think of it like a cow chewing their cud. You know how cows do? They like chew and chew and chew and chew and chew and chew and chew. A lot of people do that. I do it sometimes too. I'm not saying I'm immune to all this. I do it too, but I catch myself ruminating over maybe a conversation that I've had with someone. Maybe I'm questioning, did I say the right thing, or could I have taken it this way or that way, or, whatever. Sometimes we have an argument with someone and then we're in our head going, yeah, and then I could have said, and we get these things going on in our heads. But if we just can recognize them for what they are, they're just thoughts. They're just thoughts, you guys. That's all they are. And we do have the ability to recognize that and catch ourselves. I don't know if I guess maybe some people might get to the point where they don't have to catch themselves even, but I still have to catch myself. But at least I do, which is progress of some sort, I guess. I don't know.
Sorry, Samantha. I have to say that that is so valuable, and it seems like sometimes I feel like I must be the dullest blade on the planet, because I have studied these things and learned these things and written these things and highlighted these things, and I can go back. If I could pull out all the innards of my computer and set it up to where I could just glance around like at a big whiteboard with all the stuff, it'd be the same stuff over and over and over, because I get it when I talk about it, when I read about it, and like last night, I get caught in this thing. I get caught in this thing, and even then I'm thinking, is this destroying me, or is this uplifting me? Is this bettering me? Is this helping? And watch, say, a video and remind myself being interviewed by some really handsome, tall guy, young guy, where I want it to be, so I can stream the thoughts that I want to stream. I've mentioned before that I've been diagnosed bipolar. It'll be 30 years next year, and you know, I can look at that, of course, genetically. I mean, in my family, for as far back as a person has, an awareness of a person's name, but I had actually taken my younger sister in to be diagnosed 3 years before I was diagnosed, or 4 years before, and she's 3 years younger, and you know, I've always wanted to escape stuff like that. I've always wanted to be, not the one that has to deal with that kind of thing. And at the time they said there was only 1%. I don't know. It seems like everybody's bipolar now, so maybe it's 100%. I don't know what it is.
It is. So check this out. So you're not your disease. Right? Okay, you're not your disease. And the other thing we're talking about, one created the two, or the Tao created the two, and the two created the three, and three created 10,000 things. That was a much simpler philosophy. Well, first, so the two were yin and yang, and bipolar means you have some yin and you have some yang, and sometimes your yang goes to yang and sometimes it goes to yin. If everyone wasn't bipolar, they'd be perfectly balanced. So everyone has some amount of this. Everyone is bipolar. You have some yin and you have some yang. And your yang goes too far yang, or your yin goes too far yin. People overcomplicate it. It's a 10,000 thing disease, 10,000 diseases. People overcomplicate stuff. Don't worry about it.
Perfect. I agree with you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. But my point was, whatever percent it can help to understand that these thoughts are what we have to watch out for. Our thoughts need to be schooled. Our thoughts need to be reprogrammed. Our thoughts need to be checked. We need to be aware of what our thoughts are, so that Chris's mopping doesn't get to him. That's my contribution. Thanks.
Thank you, Karen. I had a thought in my head, and then my dog's looking at me going, hello. I'm like, 10 minutes. Give me 10 minutes. I'll come back to it. Sorry.
Well, I so agree with what Chris said, and like what you said, it seems like these days everybody is autistic, everybody is bipolar, everybody's, everything. And these labels, these books of diagnostic names and labels that they give to us for, quote, normal human behavior, it gives us this 10,000 things to focus on. And the thing about that is it's so subjective. It is absolutely so subjective. Like, I didn't do a whole lot of psych nursing, but I did enough of it to realize that you can put the same patient, and it's this way with medical, not that psychiatrists aren't medical doctors, but you know what I mean. It's this way with medical doctors too. You can put the same person in front of a doctor, several doctors, or several psychiatrists, and get completely different diagnoses for the same set of symptoms. Like, it's so freaking subjective. It's crazy. And then the medication that they write for it is subjective to whichever pharmaceutical company came in and bought them lunch that week. I mean, it's really It's a business. It's, I think people need to have real conversations like we do and talk about the struggle that we all face behind the scenes, so that people don't feel like they're so different because they have too much yang today. I mean, that happens to everybody. And like being a young single mom and stuff like that forced me to being very yang. I have a lot of yang. You know, I have a lot of masculine energy because that's the get it done energy, and I've always had to be the one that got it done. But it's completely different to say, you know, to realize that you have masculine energy, that you have to like pull back and you have to remind yourself to bring that feminine in and to receive and all of that. That's a completely different thought process than being told you're bipolar. You know what I mean? I mean, I've never been told that, but my son has been diagnosed with that for a long time, and I've argued against it because I've been with him during his episodes, and it is his thoughts that are driving him crazy. And that's just the truth of it. It is his thoughts, as it is with most of us, regardless of what label you want to put on it. It is a common human experience to feel these things and to feel anger and rage and frustration and sadness and abandonment. And, you know, we all feel those things. We don't talk about them. And that's when people feel like they're so different, because they just know in their mind that nobody else has to deal with all this crazy voices shit going on in their head. You know, when we do, we just, at some point, we learn how to tell it to shut up. That's it. That's my point.
Or we don't. You know, Karen, when you mentioned you could just like, you know, undo your computer and have all that stuff out there, you know. I don't know, have you guys seen the movie Bruce Almighty? And he becomes God for a day or 3 days or however long it is, and he's got all these prayer requests coming in. He's trying to figure them all out and everything, and he decides, makes them all Post-it notes, and his entire room is like flooded with these Post-it notes everywhere and all over the place, and sticking here, sticking there, sticking all over him, and it's all of the prayers, right? Well, I'm sitting here thinking, I pictured, Karen, when you said all of the stuff in your computer popping out, I'm like, that's what my computer would be. It'd be like all these Post-it notes everywhere about all these things that I read and studied and this and that and the other, you know, but yet I still have this issue. And, you know, and it's funny because, but that's the thing, is that what you're doing that's different from what everybody else who suffers so much more than even what you do, is that you have done the studying and you're recognizing when these things are happening, and you can step back, even if it's after it's already happened and you're not doing it in the moment, you're still able to step back and go, oh, okay, this is what I did to myself today. And I'm recognizing that I did this to myself. Now, how can I somehow create this tether, as you said, so that the next time this thing won't get me in the grip so easily, or won't get me as hard the next time, or it won't, whatever, you know? And what I have found is that I have, sometimes I'm able to recognize in the moment when this thing is happening to me, and I can stop myself. And other times I have not reached that point yet. And so you just allow yourself to go through whatever it is you're causing yourself, and then you reflect on it later, and you study it a little bit, and you go, okay, well, maybe next time I'll do better, or maybe I'll recognize something or whatever. And then the next time it happens, maybe you have 1 millisecond less of suffering in that situation than you did the time before. And then the next time, maybe you have 2 milliseconds less of suffering than you did the time before, maybe, you know, and that's how you grow. I mean, that's just the way that it is. And you know, I look at people sometimes and I'm going, gosh, you know, I can't imagine what it'd be like to be in that deep of suffering and not even have a clue that I'm doing it to myself. and not have a clue that there is a way that I can survive from that, that I can get out of it, that I can claw my way out of that. And, but that's where we are. We know we can. And just that knowledge allows us to suffer less than somebody who doesn't even have that knowledge. So even though we still cause ourselves suffering, God knows I do. I know I cause my husband a ton of suffering, just because of the things that I still haven't been able to catch, and it's usually related to my husband. And, my girlfriend, she was telling me, that she has the same problem with her mom. She just can't get away from her mom, and all the things. Just like the universe must be trying to teach me something that my mom embodies. And I know that's how it is with my husband, is that, we're together because of this, because I have to learn from it, or because this is my life experience that I've chosen to do, is to learn from all of these things. But that's the key, is that it's just those little millisteps that you make to change so that you don't suffer as much as what you did before. So thanks for sharing, Karen, because you are doing amazing, absolutely amazing. And just the fact that that there is something that you can work on, and that you can make a change. That's huge, huge. Even if you haven't made changes yet, you still know that you can. So that releases that suffering a little bit. So that's all I got to say. Oh, we're at 11 o'clock. Everybody share some final thoughts, and then we can wrap it up for today.
My clock's saying 8 o'clock.
Okay, so I guess we go for what, another few hours? I don't know if I can make it that long without going to the bathroom, but I know my dog can.
You have some final thoughts, Chris? He's chewing. He can't talk right now. I'll throw in a final thought. Life is messy. I made this post yesterday or the day before on Facebook. Life is messy. And it's supposed to be, just love yourself through it, love people through it, and stop thinking. I mean, we are like so unique in our own ways, and we all have our own gifts and stuff, but stop thinking that you're unique in your suffering, because that is definitely something that the entire human race feels at some point and allows themselves to experience on some level. It's just, I think the key is that knowing that suffering is a choice. And I can honestly say that from experience, dealing with the pain that I've dealt with for the last 11 years. I can choose to sit in that pain and let it just become flames all around me, or I can recognize that the lessons that it's teaching me, and that, the biggest lesson is that I have the ability to focus on something else beside whatever it is I think I'm suffering from. That's like the biggest gift of it all, is realizing, when I realize that, I've been so occupied with that mastermind for the last hour, I haven't been suffering from my pain. You know what I mean? When you can recognize that you can step away from your suffering, even if it's just for that millisecond, like you just said, Samantha, that is so powerful, to understand that you can separate yourself from your suffering. Is so powerful. And I'm so grateful to you guys and for this mastermind. And if this reaches one person, somebody watches the replay later and they figure out that they can step away from their suffering, it's all worth it, guys. I love you.
Thanks. We love you too. Thanks, Catherine. Yeah, I was just going to say, sometimes it'll be like, it seems like we can't avoid fully what's happening to us, but kind of like what Tony Robbins says, we can choose as to how it'll affect us. So sometimes we can take a different viewpoint and then, you know, let it affect us less or focus on something else. So we sometimes have some choice as to if it's going to affect us or not. Great talk today. Thank you guys a lot. I got to run because I got a few duties.
10,000 things.
Yeah, right. At least 4. All right. Love you guys. Bye.
Any final thoughts, Karen?
I always keep pointing to the little mic up by me and it doesn't work. Oh, you couldn't hear me. I'm so sorry. I just so much appreciate this mastermind, and I'm so grateful that I'm in good company in terms of how I see it and perceive it. That that threw me off. Let's see. I just think that the first and foremost and biggest thing about this mastermind is the realness, and and everyone contributing their realness and not holding back on that, and that just means a lot to me. It just means so much to me to have a place to come on my computer, to come in my internet world, and have people be like this. So thank you. I love you. It's been so good to be a part of it. Thanks.
Love you too, Karen. And thank you, Catherine and Chris. Love you all so very much. And those of you who join us occasionally or here and there, we love you as well. And we miss those of you who couldn't join us this morning. And for anybody who's watching this as a replay, if you want to connect with us and see some of our previous masterminds, of course, you can always find us on YouTube. Just search for Mindset Mastery Collective on YouTube and you'll find us. And then if you want to participate in our mastermind, we get together every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. And you can find instructions on how to join us just by going to zoom.saturdaymorningmastermind.com. And you can find all our blogs and replays and all that kind of thing at mindsetmasterycollective.com. So with that, have a great, awesome, amazing weekend, guys, and we'll see you next week on the Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye for now.